Thank you. First of all, it's great to see so many people. Some of you I thought were dead, but never mind. Oh, Jonah, hi, yourself. I'm told. Anyway, guys, I don't think we need to have much introduction to our guest speaker today. I want to say that he's the second most capped player in Scotland of all times, and he's also the most points of all time in Scotland. I don't think there's much else I really want to say about the person.
I hope it goes downhill for there.
But please make a welcome for Chris Paterson.
Thank you. How else would I introduce myself? I had that written down as well. I've been before, a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, I've quite a few different bits and pieces in Linlithgow, I think a kind of official presentation to you, the Members Cup, I think it was once before, with a cup maybe 3-4 years ago, perhaps, 4 years ago, something like that.
I can't remember.
It's at least once before. So I've been here before, so it's great to see some faces. I assume that they were here the last time, and it's just good to get out on a Monday morning and start the week with a bang. So yeah, 109 caps for Scotland, 809 points. I've got this written down. Played in 4 World Cups, which was a thrill. Only got to do that. Scored 22 tries, which Huggy was level with about a fortnight ago now. So there was actually had 3 goals as a player. Goals changed all the time, of course they did, and you set new ones and you tried to, if you achieved a goal, break another record or whatever. And I was interested in breaking records, probably underlines how selfish I am. But I wanted to be the most capped player, the highest try scorer and the highest points. So I held two of those 3 records. I never got the try when I was the highest cap holder until Ross Ford overtook me, and I was still the highest point scorer. But I was still the highest try scorer. So Tony Stanger and Ian Smith in 1925 were on 24 tries, and I was third on 22. Huggy's now put me fourth last week. Well, he scored 3 tries in 2 weeks, so he's now the Scotland's record try scorer, which is great. And on him, there'll be far more to come. The way Scotland are playing, the way he plays, what he's got left, that the record will be extended. So roll on that. So. Yeah, I think what Bert actually said, because I've been before, we're going to try and have a focus on my Edinburgh career. So I suppose I've spoken more about my Scotland career in bits and pieces. So I've got a few things up here from my Edinburgh career, kind of beginning, middle and end. So if we click I'm going to start before Edinburgh, click on my Gala career, here we go. Grew up in Gala, played 1996 was when I left school and played my first senior game for Gala. This was 1999. Just after this is Gala winning the Scottish Cup, the Tennent's Velvet Cup as it was then. So a few familiar faces in that's me, younger. Do you remember this fella? Gary Parker. Yeah. He was player coach. He's now in Australia, New Zealand, I think, Gary. Big fella at the back, maybe remember his face. Nathan Hines. So Nathan had just moved he came over from Australia to play that season at Gala. So that was 1999. He came in, the August '98 and played for Gala. So we won the 2nd Division Championship as it was then, the Scottish Cup and Melrose Simmons in 3 consecutive weeks. So it was a bit of a purple patch for us at Gala. It was good times. Another Scottish internationalist at the far end. Remember that face? Stevie Scott. Who now coaches Romania. He's out by Andrew Robinson coaching Romania. So Stevie, and former Edinburgh coach as well, played at Edinburgh, coached Edinburgh, was involved with Scotland as a throwing coach as a hooker. And this guy was one of my best mates. He's kind of cut off the photo deliberately. David Gray. So Davey said he played Scotland Simmons captain, and he's now in New Zealand with the Wellington Hurricanes. He does strength and conditioning and fitness coaching. So. We're here to talk about Edinburgh, but I thought I'd squeeze a bit of Gala in first. So, yeah, that was it. That was 1999, and just after that, pretty much the week after that, I signed for Edinburgh, signed professional Edinburgh, and I've got a list of coaches. It was Ian Rankin that signed me. He was head coach of Edinburgh at the time, and it got me thinking actually, who were the head coaches at Edinburgh? So it was Ian Rankin, and assistant at the time was Bob Easton. So Ian and Bob were coaches at Edinburgh Rugby, and then after that Frank Haddon was my head coach. After Frank, Todd Blackadder took over, so Todd Blackadder, the All Black captain, came. It was a brilliant signing for us. He was an amazing player for Edinburgh. I mean, big, like just an immeasurable difference to how we play, how we approach different bits and pieces. And if you think that now, a signing like that is just, well, it was big then, but even now it'd be amazing for Edinburgh to bring in, you know, All Black captain. And not just an All Black captain, somebody that stood for so much. So he was when Frank Haddon took the Scotland job, Todd Blackadder took the Edinburgh job, so he was my head coach. That's about 2005 time, I think. And then after that, Lynn Howells became head coach at Edinburgh. I had Andy Robinson, Rob Moffat, Nick Scrivener, and Michael Bradley. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 head coaches. Probably had a few of them sacked now. So 8 head coaches at Edinburgh. And I actually wrote down the different iterations of the league as well. So say 1999, and prior to that, Glasgow, Caledonian, and Edinburgh Reavers, as it was then, hadn't really played in a competitive league as such. So the first kind of official league was the Welsh-Scottish League. So we would travel to Wales every second week, and the Welsh teams would come up, and it was before the Welsh rugby was regionalised as well. So it was, you play at Cardiff or Swansea or Meath, Newport, all these clubs, but it was actually before regionalisation in Wales. So Dunford, Caerphilly, Ebbw Vale, these really hard kind of Welsh clubs we'd go to, they would just see us as cannon fodder basically, this kind of young professional team spending 14 hours or 12 hours on the bus the day before, getting battered and then having to get on the bus and go home and reach in the afternoon. But really important times in the kind of, I suppose, the progression of professional rugby in Scotland to have a meaningful league. So it was the Welsh Scottish League when it started. That became the Celtic Cup. The Irish teams joined, the 4 Irish provinces joined, and it was split into 2 pools as a Celtic Cup. That became the Celtic League, and then the Magners League, the Rabble Direct Pro 12, the Guinness Pro 12, the Guinness Pro 14, and up to the United Rugby Championship that we have now. So I suppose professional rugby changes, doesn't it? That's one of the things I'd say. So, 99, if we click, actually the next picture I've got is a tour squad. So that was April 99, signed professional, May 99 with Ian Rankin signing, and started to train with Edinburgh. And we went on a pre-season tour to Canada with Edinburgh, so again, managed to kind of scramble around and find who was on that tour, find a tour list. So this didn't have the kind of frontline internationalists, because 99 was a World Cup year, so players like kind of Matt Leslie, it would be involved then, who else? That kind of, I'm trying to think of the Edinburgh players who were still professionals. They would be training with Scotland as it rolled up to the 99 World Cup. So this is the squad that went on a pre-season tour to Canada to end up playing Glasgow. It saved the mileage. But it was Uruguay A, Ontario, who were hosting the kind of camp, Edinburgh, and I think it was meant to be Mendoza or somebody for Argentina, but they pulled out, so Glasgow went. So we ended up going to Toronto to play against Glasgow. So that was the squad. A few names I kind of forgot about in all honesty. Grant McKelvey was captain, still works with Scottish Rugby, Granty. Graham Doll, brilliant battle player, never got a cap, Graham Doll, some of you guys might remember the brilliant player, was probably one of the best players I played with, who never got cap, number 7, I would say. I'd put him alongside players that played with Edinburgh that should have been capped, with him and another number 7, Roddy Grant. I think both really quality players, quite similar actually. Ian Floaton, Gregor Hayter was a massive big second row battle guy. Nathan Hines, Buggy, Carl Hogg, Chunk, Russ McNulty, Callum Mather, Matty Proudfoot coaches England now, England forwards coach. Matty was with us. Stevie Scott was on the pitch before Ian Sinclair Baza and Simon Taylor. Simon Taylor, Gregor Lawson and Stuart Walker were all playing for Hereds at the time. So they weren't professional, but they were on holiday in Canada. Well, you're there, lads. So yeah, there was 3 additions: Simon Taylor, Gregor Lawson, Stuart Walker. Obviously, Simon Taylor became a double British line, but Gregor Lawson and Stuart Walker were just there on the sauce with Simon on holiday. both quality players, but never had a main professional with Edinburgh, but they were welcome additions. The backs, who to pick it? I mean, there's a fairly quite Graham Burns, you'll know. Ali Cullen was a winger, good at Burn Ali. Marcus, Alan Tate, he was delighted to be in that tour. And he had reached the heights all around the world as a rugby league player, rugby union player, and he was kind of set of young guys playing Uruguay A in Toronto in the middle of the summer heat, so I think he could see it far enough, but he was there. Gary Paterson, Scotland, so a big turnover. I say that was without the internationalists that were preparing for the World Cup, although I think Alan Tate was maybe there. He went to the World Cup right now, but he was there to get game time or game minutes. So yeah, it's amazing how it changes, but that was the first squad that was involved in for Edinburgh. On the next picture we'll see some of the same names, but it was the first competitive game, so that's to say I played one game, I played Ontario, I think it was, and we won reasonably well. But this is my first, few weeks later, the first team sheet, my first official match league start for Edinburgh, and you can see it was against Newport, down at Pointer Park actually. So again, not a huge amount of memories, but this game I know we were beaten heavily. I'll tell you the score. It was 51-23. That was Desi, Marcus in the win. Interesting. I think what they did do was pick the Kelso boys to get the fans on board. So Kev Paterson was a Kelso 12, Ian Fairley was scum half, and Roxy, Adam Roxburgh. So obviously at that time Edinburgh played, kind of moved around, because it was Edinburgh Reavers, you were representing Edinburgh and the borders, and you would move, move around different venues. So for the, actually Ian Floyd was a Kelso boy as well. There was four in that starting team. Martin Brown never made the team. So that was Edinburgh. Now Newport at the time were very strong. They just signed a couple of Gary Teichman, remember him, the Springbok captain, the Springboks against the Lions in '97. He was a massive signing. He was excellent. Flano Smith, the 10, was an excellent player. Andy Marinos is now, I saw him a couple of weeks ago, he's now Chief Executive of Australia Rugby. He was Chief Executive of Sanzar. Actually got capped for Wales. Matthew Watkins, poor soul, he's no longer with us. He had a hearing on this and died a couple of years ago. But they were a quality side. They were one of the kind of first teams that really embraced signings or overseas signings. And I spoke about Todd Blackadder earlier on. He was kind of our Gary Teichman. So Gary Teichman, I do remember that night was excellent. The other signing they made about that time was Paterson Montgomery as well, the Springbok fullback. So the Robbie Kempson was another Springbok that probably came in. So, we got a bit of a lesson. As I say, we were new to professional rugby. I did laugh at Chuck Muir. You remember Chuck Muir? He was refereeing for Lionel. He seemed to appear everywhere, every sevens tournament. He was the only ref that would do every tie in the single sevens tournament. So spoke to Hoggy earlier on. That's his dad, John Hogg. That's been running the touch. So even with the support of 3 border officials, it was still beat 51-23. So yeah, like it was a kind of, I suppose the most difficult thing at that time was a real trying to find an identity for who Edinburgh Reavers were, and not so much how we would play. It was just like what we stood for, because it was so in its infancy as professional rugby. And I think instead of sometimes trusting our own instincts, he would try and, quite rightly in some ways, take advice or look at other countries who maybe professional longer, look at other players, look what they're doing in Australia, look what they're doing in New Zealand, look what they're doing in Ireland, look what they're doing in England, look what they're doing in France. And you'd end up just taking a bit of everything. It's like a real core, strong identity is what you stand for. And I think it was probably just because, professional rugby was new to us, and he wanted to take all the best bits from everyone else. And sometimes I think we maybe don't trust ourselves quite enough. What we would have came up with would maybe have been a clearer identity as to how to play or how to shape a week or how many hours you train. I mean, these are days when it was still, it is good work, don't get me wrong, but the year before I signed, the players still had to turn up with a shirt and tie at 9 o'clock in the morning and train all day and then go home at 5 o'clock at night because it was seen as work. Whereas you quickly realise that it is your work, but the need for training from 9 until 5 isn't needed. You have to train intense times and mirror when you play and all the different kind of professional iterations. So it was a mix of brilliant time, brilliant players, brilliant individuals, great fun, but as I say, we were finding our feet in professional rugby just 2 or 3 years after the game turned professional, but I'll say it again, it's probably more fun than it is now. So that was 1999. Another game, I've kind of picked out a beginning, the middle and the end of my Edinburgh career. The middle bit was some of you might remember, was a really kind of successful time. We were the first team to qualify for the knockout stages of the European Cup. So in 2003-04 season, we went to Europe, and the group in the Heineken Cup was Ospreys, Leeds and Toulouse. So we beat Toulouse first game at Meadowbank by that time, December 03, 23-16. And then we beat Nice Swansea Ospreys away. We beat Leeds back-to-back, 19-9 at home, and we went away down to Leeds and beat them 23-0. And then beat Ospreys in round 7 again, 33-15. So after round 5, so after 5 of 6 games, we were the first team to qualify for the knockout stages that year. We were sitting in top seeds. In our 6th game, we lost to Toulouse, and we dropped from top seed to 8th seed for Europe. So we ended up playing Toulouse again away in the quarter-final. And Toulouse were, they won it that year, actually beat Wasp in the final, and they were kind of serial winners at that time. So this is the team sheet from the quarter-final game. So this will be 2004. I say different again, different shape. Desi still playing. Simon Mouse and Marcus DeRoe scored their only try. And this was Todd's team. You see, Todd Blackadder was captain, but he and Frank run the team, drove the team, and it was a brilliant achievement to compete with the kind of star-studded Toulouse side. Score I've got here. 36-10 we lost to Toulouse. Toulouse eventually won 27-20. That was the year where they beat Wasps at Twickenham in the final, and Clement Platten, the fullback, kind of left the ball on his line for Rob Howlett to score the try for Wasps. So, if you remember that, it was a close game anyway. It was Toulouse were the top teams, but Toulouse were always a favourite. So that was the kind of middle era, and by this time we really did have an identity. We played a quick, open, fast brand of rugby. We knew we were never going to be the size of opposition teams. The size of squads at that time were small as well. Be lucky if you had kind of 28, 30 full-time pros. Now you can be up to 50, 53, 54 players in a professional squad. So the squads are much smaller and with a real strong core and identity. We'd come out the back of the 2003 World Cup, those who were involved internationally had played quite a quick tempo, quick brand of rugby, and it really suited us. Brendan Blaney was an influential character at 10, who single-handedly won games almost every week for Edinburgh. Whether it was kicking goals, scoring tries, he basically was, Mr. Fantastic. He would win every game more often than not for Edinburgh, just brilliant. But Brendan then struggled a wee bit when he went up to international rugby, just whether the game was just a wee bit quicker, but so influential, such a key figure in our team. And the team was built around Todd and Brendan Blaney, really, again, looking at the importance of kind of foreign players coming over. But you'll see some familiar faces in there as well. Mike Blair, obviously, coach of Edinburgh. Alan Jacobs, we all know, he played for years and years. Nathan Hines was all before, Scott Murray. So there's loads of internationals, loads of kind of players who've gone to play for the Lions as well, and Mike, Nathan, Scott, Simon, Simon Taylor wasn't playing, Simon Cross was playing. So really clear identity, clear way we wanted to play. Absolutely, probably the most enjoyable time of my Edinburgh career, that middle section where it was just before the game got dominated too much by physicality. There was still space on the pitch. We'll maybe have a chat about that later. There's certainly not a lot of space on the field now for the guys that play. But when Ben said pick out some highlights or pick out some memories of Edinburgh, that period in 2004, were definitely there. So that was the quarter-final teams, and as I say, we just we came up short. But it was probably an important moment because it showed and it proved and underlined that Scottish teams could compete in Europe. Nobody really thought we could before we did that, and I know it's a bit defeatist in the sense that we're saying we're competing because we lost the quarter-final stage, but actually getting to a quarter-final stage is still pretty difficult. It's only done a handful of times since, 3-4 times since. And in that era where we were still chasing the tail a wee bit in professional rugby, it made a statement that we had to be taken seriously. And it was great to be part of that. I actually got injured in that game. I have a hip, it's still sore now. it was his fault. He tackled me. But Christian will be. It wasn't actually the Toulouse club ground. It was in the Toulouse football stadium. So it was a bigger venue, full of the animals. It had been built for France and football, but I'm getting a wee bit technical here. But the football pitches are really hard, like compressed, solid underneath. Where the rugby pitches are a wee bit softer. Well, he picked me up, spear tackled me at the ground with my hip. As I say, whatever that was 2004, so it's still so now. So,
just thinking about it.
I know, it was miserable. It would have been probably a red card, it would have been a yellow card at least because I landed in my back, but it was in the days where you were allowed to be picked up, thrown about, and driven into the ground with somebody landing you. So, bittersweet. There was actually a fight in this game as well that our physio, do you remember Stuart Barton, the young physio? Stuart, he got battered by Trevor Brown in the second row, because there was a scuffle on the touchline, and Stuart Barton came in. Somebody had been injured, a scuffle on the touchline, right in front of the dugouts, it turned out. Stuart Barton, physio, came on to see if it was okay, bumped into Trevor Brown, who was the angriest Irishman you've ever seen in your life. Since then, he actually jumped at the crowd and led up somebody as well, playing for Toulouse and got a year ban. Well, he took exception to physio Barty and his pitch bag with his strap, and he comes on, gets bumped, and that's what Trevor Brown just look at the shins he dropped. So the physio was coming on to help somebody who's injured was lying in the bed. Graham Burns was a great, Burns was on the bench, he was a great mate of Stuart Barton, the physio. He was in the dugout, saw this, but again, because it was football World Cup, football dugouts, there were those kind of cool dugouts that were dug at the ground, Bunsey jumps up, hits his head, and he gets it. 3 injuries, one of which was a medical guy that was going to be helping the guys at the and all hell broke loose. It was, I suppose, it was just what happens in France, isn't it? The physio gets battered and nobody says anything about it. So, good memories, good fun. The biggest memory is the fact that we were taken seriously and we had an identity that we stood for, that we could build and grow on, just when the game was really kind of developed professionally. So that was 2004. And then I've got my last team, so it's kind of first squad, the middle squad that spoke about, the middle time spoke there, and this was the last time I played for Edinburgh, so it's 2012, retired internationally in 2008, no, 2011 World Cup, sorry, and then played the rest of that season for Edinburgh in 2012. So this is a game against Treviso, ironically who Edinburgh play this weekend, and that was the starting team. The policemen are on a different pictures as well, but that was the starting team, so we'll see if anybody makes it through all the way. I'm not sure there'll be anybody. Is Alan Jacobson there? Actually scroll down. Yeah, Chunk's still going. So the only one really that would have played the whole time was Alan Jacobson, who played maybe another season, 2 seasons after me. So it shows you the turnover in professional rugby. But that was the last team I played for Edinburgh, 2012 against Treviso. And I was asked earlier, like, do you miss playing or do you miss it? No, I don't at all. I think because I was lucky enough to get through in one piece-ish, but also because I just vividly remember worrying about this game, thinking, what will happen if I final whistle goes, or what happens when I come to the field, what am I meant to do? That's it, finished. I can just remember I got taken off about 2 or 3 minutes before the end of the game, and just this massive smile came over my face, and I thought, well, don't worry about it. For some of you, just wondered whether you miss it or not. I didn't. I was so proud of what I'd achieved. I was so worried about devaluing what I'd managed to achieve over 12 years as a professional. And I just says, the number went up to come off, and I just had this massive smile on my face. And I thought I knew then it'd be the right decision, and since then I've never ever regretted it. I wasn't forced to retire. I could have played on. Physically, I probably have played on a wee bit longer. Whether I would have been as effective as I wanted to be, I doubt. I could have played on. I had an offer on my contract to play another year. I wasn't injured, but I just thought it was the right time to go. I think players who maybe are injured or don't get offered a contract or their end comes with a bit of resentment, I think would find it more difficult to move on and try something else. But I was so happy, done what I wanted to do, achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I just remember having a big old face, a big smile on my face coming off the field. I don't think there's many of the Treviso guys still playing either. So some of the internationalists, Zani just retired last year, Minto's retired, and Luke McLean, the fullback, maybe still playing, but Ben, he's still playing. But most of them have moved on. And the last picture I've got is Mike Blair, who's coaching now, taking the mick out. So this one here was that night. I came off the field with a big smile on my face. Oh, that was a bench actually.
Oh, sorry.
That's alright.
Just quickly, sure.
Let's see if there's anybody. Andrew Kelly, Kyle Trina, Jack Young, Phil Woodman's there. So they all retired as well actually. Stephen Turnbull down, he's now Western Scottish Rugby, he's in the rugby development bit as well. Alan McDonald was a track and battle, but he's now a doctor now. I don't know much about that. Well, Phil Godwin runs he's a high school with he's the kind of head of rugby up there. Harry Leonard, he was a good, Harry Leonard was a really good young number 10, 12. He went to Leeds, I think, but now stopped playing. But he was the same under 20s as Finn Russell, kind of age gate stuff as Finn Russell, so he kept Finn out. Finn played 12 and Harry Leonard played 10. Quite a steady number 10, but again, doesn't play now. So yeah, it's funny how they say that's what, just 10 years ago, 9 years ago, how they move on. So as I say, I came off that field with a big old smile on face and was presented with, most people get a gold watch. I remember Mike Blair giving me a water bottle. I think he was taking the mic a wee bit, but that was kind of the last time I played. I never played a game again, and I promised myself as I came off the pitch, that's it, done, no doing it again. Simple. Don't be tempted to play, don't be tempted to play club rugby, don't be tempted to have a game here or there, because I think it was important for me to cut that tie and move on. If I tried to play, I would probably have just thought I could do it and get angry at those who were still doing it when I felt I could have played professionally. So it was a kind of real clear effort to cut a tie, move on, get your teeth into something new. So to say that was May, 5th of May 2012. Was the last time, and I managed to score a try as well, which made it nice. So that was the kind of beginning, the middle and end of Edinburgh, and my career in Edinburgh. And the changes of the game were colossal, from the kind of club together nature, a wee bit of the squad, the players, the league you played in. It was nobody's fault, that's just what it was. You just had to adapt really quickly. And that rate of change was probably slower in the first half of my career than it was in the end. Now, the game changes exponentially in a year, in 6 months. It does, it changes so quickly. So the change from the start to the middle was quite gradual, and then the game really began to change in terms of the laws that changed, in terms of the physicality, in terms of the size of the players, how much analysis is done, how much research is done, how much how many coaches you have, how big the staff is. It changes so quickly now. But I say over that 12-year period, that change was slowly starting, but it's certainly towards the end. As I say, would I change it? Would I play now? I don't think I would. I think the one regret I have in my career, this isn't just Edinburgh, and I've said this before, is probably not making enough for the good times, like not giving myself a pat on the back if I'd achieved something, or if we had a big win, or if it didn't happen very often. But I wish I'd been easier on myself at times, and just say, actually that was good, say well done yourself, and I didn't, because I always worried about trying to be better the next game week. So I was always chasing the next week rather than kind of taking a moment and saying, actually did really well. I never allowed myself to do that. Now it's maybe what drove me on, I don't know, and I wish looking back now, say actually, if there is a good moment, just actually relax, pat yourself on the back, say well done, take a minute, because I never ever did that, and I can't do it now that you don't play. So there'll be a reason for not doing it, but that's the only regret. I don't regret decisions or how I played, or positions I played, or how I committed myself to the game at all. I wouldn't change a thing. The only thing would be maybe give myself a pat on the back every now and again. There'll be a few in that boat as well. In this country, we're not too great at celebrating success. I wouldn't go as far as some of the things that go on nowadays, though. Some of that's celebrating. You get a penalty or somebody knocks it on, it's like somebody's won the World Cup. I don't know about you, but that frustrates me. It really frustrates me. And for a couple of reasons, I know why they do it. It's kind of this momentum swing and shift and, like everybody patting each other on the back and tapping each other on the head. The other guy went on. Do you know what I mean? Like, fair enough, if you score a try, if you create something, if you win something, fair enough, if you force it, but I hate celebrating other people's mistakes. And that's not a game for me, that annoys me. Or if you win a scrum penalty, everybody's cheering and roaring and punching back. Fine, well, the referee could maybe just have got it wrong. Your scrum could have been absolutely dominated, but the referee goes one way. Actually, is it worth that? So I wouldn't go as far as celebrating everything that seems to get celebrated now, but I would have given myself a pat on the back every now and again. There's questions that you want to have a...
Gloucester career.
The Gloucester, well, I went to Gloucester after 2007, actually that's something I should have touched on. It was 2007 World Cup year, and the ownership of Edinburgh changed, so remember Edinburgh got run independently for a couple of seasons, and one or two things happened where it was harder for the international players to be accommodated financially within the time, and there was an option basically if you could kind of go elsewhere, you could go elsewhere. So I went to Gloucester after the 2007 World Cup. I enjoyed the time at Gloucester. It wasn't massively successful, but it wasn't as bad as it was made out. I missed 3 kicks in a European quarter final that were kickable kicks. I should have kicked them, and that's kind of the umbrella that hangs over my whole time there. But it was a good environment. I enjoyed the coach and the players. I enjoyed playing for Gloucester. I never really got to run the team. My form wasn't particularly good, but I had really good moments in it. And then I played the 2007 World Cup, joined the season late, and about October, November when the World Cup finished, and then obviously going back to play for Scotland in February, March time for Six Nations meant I never really had that length of time there. But I was here for a season, and I've still good memories. Some not so good. I hadn't been back to Kingsholm. Now Kingsholm's it's a hostile place, which is great. It can be a hostile place as a home player as well. And I was in 2015. I was doing some commentary for the Rugby World Cup, and we were back for the Scotland-Japan game. I was at Kingsholm, and the night before I was sitting with Tony Johnson, who's the Kiwi commentator. We were commentating together. And he said, "You used to play here?" I said, "Yeah, I used to play." Well, I said, "It didn't end well." I said, "I missed a couple of kicks in Europe." And I said, "I'm not sure if they've ever let me off, if they've ever forgiven me." He said, "Oh, I'll be fine." He says, "When was that?" So 2008. So, it's fine. It's 8 years ago. What will be fine? Next game day, January, we walked up to the ground, and it was the steward with the high-vis jacket, checking the accreditation, checking Tony Johnson's a commentator. Yeah, there was. Check mine, says, "You little bastard, you missed those kicks at January." TJ Tony Johnson just turned around and says, they don't hold a grudge that. Yes, they do. So the very first person seen my very first return reminded me that I should have kicked. I should have kicked him. Paul O'Connell actually shoot my hand about 5 or 6 years later, says, thanks, you helped us win the European Cup that year. So he was playing for Munster, which kicks against Munster. So that hands all the time, but good experience, good time. I actually preferred whatever it was then, the Guinness Pro 14 or Pro 12, Magnus League, whatever iteration would it be, probably the Magnus League then, because, and I know this is a contentious issue in terms of relegation, but I felt the rugby that you could play in the Celtic League, the Magnus League, URC as it is now, the threat of relegation stifled the Premiership a wee bit. Now, again, that can be seen as a positive because it's hard-edged rugby that means something. But I actually love the fact that without relegation in the URC as it is now, you could be really expressive and play much more attack-minded rugby, which I think suits us in a lot of different ways. Whereas I felt in the Premiership, if you've got two teams that wanted to play, most of the time we were pretty good. We were up towards the top leg. We finished top of the regular season and lost out the playoffs to, I think it was Leicester actually. So if we had two teams at the top of the league, or Leicester and Quins were quite good at the time, Bath were pretty good at the time, you would get an open game and it would be representative of a really attacking game. But for the teams that you played towards the bottom league, Bristol at the time weren't great, Worcester, Leeds, Newcastle, it became a real kind of turgid affair because of that threat of relegation. So there's alarms going off. So the Gloucester was good, but much prefer playing at Edinburgh and playing in Scotland.
I think what we'll do now, guys, is we'll have a break for our tea and our coffee, and then we'll come back and Chris is prepared to answer some questions, providing you've got a question for him.
All good?
I'll give you a bit of a break, you see.